Thank you. First thing would be adoption of minutes from last meeting.
I will move them.
Second, any discussion on minutes from last meeting? Not. Don, did you have anything? No. You're muted, sorry.
No, I don't. Sorry.
All right, so all in favor of adopting minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. As far as agenda for this meeting, so presentation for the solar project. And then we had Don's resolution on process.
Mhm.
And then our next scheduled meeting is on election night. So we should probably move that, that's my guess.
Yeah.
And then anything else that may come up, I will open it up to public comments. I would say at the end, I would like to hold off to the end. I'm gonna chat. Okay. Okay, so well, maybe let's start with a presentation on solar projects.
Okay.
We can see you, scoot over a little bit.
You want to sit down?
I don't, I
Okay.
mean, I think it's fine, we can hear
Video,
you.
can you see me okay if I
Except for your head.
sort of hijack, yeah. We'll just go with the
All good works. I'm excited.
Sleepy Hollow. Headless horseman.
Yeah,
Exactly. Hello, everyone, and good to see some of you again. So I'm Chet Feldman. I work for Distributed Sun, and our project company name here is called Caroline 076 Solar One. And what we're trying to do as a company is we're applying to the town for 3 actions to be performed by this board over the coming months and consideration. One is a subdivision, which is something we'll get into as a requirement for our project. Subdivision action here will be needing a site plan review, which we understand is generally considered through the recently passed zoning law. And then we'll be requesting a special use permit under the solar siting law of 2021. There's a long process, and I think we'll be working through that together. Some of that will involve the review board passing through the State Environmental Quality Review Act process. We've submitted a form part 1. Eventually, if the board takes it up, there will be a form part 2 and a part 3. Bringing it all back tonight, what I would be asking of the review board is whether the review board can agree and consider a resolution to act as lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review process, which, you know, for everyone else is that the review board understands that there are many involved agencies, which my colleague Mark will get into. There are many involved agencies, but because there is already a solar siting law here in town, there is a basis and a knowledge for the review board to take on that action, review under the state process of seeker in the future, but all they have to do is agree that this is the right location to start this process rather than some other agency that we'll go through that alphabet of other agencies there. So that said, so getting into the more what we're trying to do here in the specific is we are proposing 4 separate connections to NYSEG's distribution grid for 4 unique connections, unique community solar plants to be connected, and that will make one whole large action for the town. And we are currently working with 3 landowners. The tax references have been provided in a lot of the documentation in the southeast area of town, on County Road 115, or the 76 road, on the northern side of that road. And what is currently 3 parcels among the landowners that we're working with will end up being, by way of how the arrays lay out and the land is, 3 parcels will become 6 parcels to manage how we get each unique connection to the grid on its own separate parcel. So, yeah, that's what we're doing there. Just as a broad, some numbers to help provide scope for everybody. You know, what we're planning to do is we're gonna plan to install about 40,000 solar modules. And again, they're about 6.5 to 7 feet wide and sorry, from chest out, 3.5 feet wide and about 7 feet tall. So we'll have just shy of 40,000 of those modules. And what I hope everyone gets a chance to look at is there is a fence line surrounding our whole areas. That fence is for safety for a operating medium voltage facility. The area inside of the fences is approximately 106 acres to deal with. That's controlled space. That's what we will be leasing directly from our landowners. In the broader terms of construction, in terms of us having to work outside of the fence, us having to install stormwater protection, connect to the grid by adding additional poles, add access roadways in particular locations throughout this map, we may be disturbing up to 139 acres in this whole project. And that'll be what, you know, sort of the DEC looks at from a stormwater perspective of what that works like. And we'll talk more about what that looks like down the road. So that's roughly 40,000 modules, 106 acres inside the fence, but more to be impacted around there. And, you know, yeah, so what we're gonna end up doing, right, is we've got these modules. The sort of the basics of the project are these modules are gonna be installed on metal foundations. They will be set up on a particular axis here. They'll be facing out in the widthway. They'll turn east in the morning. Throughout the day, they will track the sun to turn west. So all those incoming sun rays hit the solar panels. That photon becomes an electron through the process of those solar panels. That gets passed to an inverter and a transformer and eventually gets delivered down to the grid where it is metered by NYSEG in this growth system. And community solar is the program we're committing in, and Mark will be touching on that in a moment. So this is going to be all operated as a commercial facility. We'll have, you know, off-site monitoring that's 24/7 for any safety or performance concerns. We will have folks coming on sort of a quarterly basis. Once construction is finished, probably a light vehicle with spare parts or any elements to be done. So we're going to be very light touch once we get going on the project. But I also want to mention that construction will be no small issue itself. Best case scenario, we start talking about construction in sort of the fall of 2025, maybe depending on how we think things might push into 2026. Construction on a project like this is roughly going to take about 9 months in the field of work. The first 3 months, you know, there'll be a lot more of the vehicular traffic, a lot more of the deliveries. In these first 3 months, we're actually going to have to take down approximately 3 3/4 acres of these types of hedgerows that have existed in a few of our locations to separate fields out in the past. And we have to take those trees down. We can only take those down between November and March for environmental reasons. So that will be sort of a natural start point for us. But getting back to construction, we'll break ground likely end of 2025, maybe 2026. There'll be the first 3 months will be heavy on the truck delivery, lots of containers, lots of the steel that will be holding up all our solar panels. A few of the more serious pieces of electrical equipment will come in, and then of course the workers will be coming in regularly. I think the heaviest workload is when we're putting all the modules in place, so they'll be easily sort of in the 80, 90, 100 range during that time frame. One thing our builders will do prior to deployment is we'll get a pre-existing condition survey of that road down County Road 115. And I think one thing we'll probably have to work out with the town is whether we need to assess any other roads that feed there. But obviously, most of the traffic is going to be here, and we're going to be building access roads to get in at 2 different spots in the facility. We will continue to provide access to our owner to get the agricultural equipment around so that they can still access their eastern fields in there. And yeah, I think just one other thing I want to mention about us here at DSUN is, you know, we have been working in this area for over 12 years. Myself, I've been doing it 10. I worked through all the challenges and the interesting development in Dryden. I worked in Hartford. You know, I came on just as the company was building the project in Lansing. So we're familiar with the area. Happy to talk about any of my experiences there and, you know, some of our experience with the IDA and others. But with that, I'm going to hand it off to Mark, who's going to be talking about a lot of our partners and other work we're doing to work on this project.
Thank you, Jeff. Just want to introduce myself real quick. My name is Mark Betancourt. I'm a project finance and development manager here at Distributed Sun. And prior to coming to Distributed Sun in June, I was lucky enough to live here in Ithaca for 2 years while I studied at Cornell. And the first thing I'm talking about is community solar and what exactly that is. This is a community solar array, and community solar is a state program that allows individual utility customers who may not have access to, they may not own their roof, they might not have the land to put solar panels, but they still want to access the benefits of solar panels. So when I was here, I was a renter in Ithaca, and I was not able to use solar power. Well, I did have the option of signing up for a community solar array, and I would be considered a subscriber to that array. In its most basic form is you're buying or leasing a certain section of the array. So when we build this array, if we build the array, the actual owners or users will be people in the community, just like you'd have a community garden. Everyone who is subscribed would be subscribed to a certain number of panels. And the way this really works is solar array will create power, and for our subscribers, they'll see 2 bills. They'll see the bill from the utility, and they'll see a separate bill from our community solar array. So they'll pay both bills, but the community solar array will provide these renewable energy credits that will be awarded, and those credits will go to offset their normal utility bill. And what actually happens at the end of the day, when the numbers flush out, you see that subscribers tend to see a 10% reduction in their energy bills every month. And all they have to do is, the way we create our solar arrays and the way we work with our subscribers, is they just need to sign up. We don't ask for any upfront. We use a pay-as-you-go model, and this particular solar array, the Caroline PV array, will be able to power 4,800 homes in the area. And because it's in Caroline, we will offer Caroline residents exclusivity early on. We'll allocate certain panels so that all Caroline residents can sign up for this community solar array if they wish. And then after that, anyone in this NYSEG territory can sign up for this community solar array. The next thing I want to talk about is the additional partners that we will be working with along with you at the Caroline Review Board. So through our environmental surveys, they have found northern harriers hunting in the area of the solar array.
Mhm.
So we are going to work with the New York Department of Environmental Conservation for guidance and approvals on how to deal with, how to get the project approved with, since northern harriers were seen hunting on the site. We're also going to work with the National Fish and Wildlife Agency, and that is in relation to the long-haired, northern long-eared bats. And that is mainly going to affect our tree clearing windows. So what we will do is we will only clear the trees that we need to clear between November and March. And that's because that is when the northern long-eared bats are hibernating. And we cannot clear when they're not hibernating because they tend to like to hang on, I think they're called snags. It's dead tree limbs, and that's where they tend to occupy when they're not hibernating. So we will clear trees during the windows when they are, we will only clear trees from November to March when the northern long-eared bat is hibernating. We're also going to work with the Army Corps of Engineers for approvals and guidance on how to build this array in relation to nationally and state registered wetlands. So you see right here, we have one wetland that comes through the array, and we're going to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to make sure that we are staying away from that wetland to their standard. And lastly, we're going to work with the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets. And we're going to let them know of our notice of intent to change agricultural land from its agricultural purpose to solar. And I think what that means for us is we are going to have a environmental monitor during construction. We'll monitor how we change the soil while we install our racking panels. And then we'll also have a environmental observer visit the plant during decommissioning that will ensure that the soil is returned to its agricultural state. So this is 30 years, 35 years from now. We will make sure that someone is there to make sure the soil is returned to its original state. And the last thing I want to talk about is how this project will bring revenue to the town and the county. We are working with the Tompkins County Industrial Development Agency to establish a payment in lieu of taxes for this project. We have reached out to Heather, who is the head of the Tompkins County IDA, and we look forward to coming to an agreement on how this project can provide benefits to the local community. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass it back to Chet. But
I don't actually have much to add right now. I think there'll be a lot of questions, but that's what we're here to do. Answer yours and any that might come from the public, but stay up here and sit down. Preference.
Why don't you stay up there
Okay.
for now? So open the questions. Board members. Okay, I can jump right in. So there's still a lot of coordination that needs to happen. Like you mentioned, DEC, Fish and Wildlife, Army Corps, blah, blah, blah. Do you have a timeline? I'm assuming you've reached out, have you reached out to all of these agencies already or not?
I think the Corps is the one who I'm uncertain of their timelines because they're generally inundated. Their timeline is the hardest for me to peg down in that vein, but I'm accounting for them for sort of 4 to 5 months, and that outreach is starting now. So
Yeah.
they won't have their opinion rendered for a little bit of time, but what we're talking about with them is as long as, you know, the major action is this culvert right across there, and it's disturbing less than 1/10 of 1 acre of a wetland that is under their jurisdiction. As long as we can prove that that is less than 1/10 of 1 acre, they don't really have any means to deny that nationwide permit 14 as it's called. So it's what we would call on our side a ministerial permit that as long as we're following through on those rules, it's just a matter of time to get that approval.
And then, I mean, it might be good to maybe for us, if you want to provide or have a timeline of you know, when you're, you know, gonna reach out to county DOT and or town DOT, as far as talking about the road conditions and
Mhm.
stuff like that. The fire department, I know that you have an emergency plan, but have you talked to the fire department at all about
Yeah,
access and?
I spoke to. Speedsville chief is also your highway supervisor, so yes, I've spoken to him. And. Well, I actually offered to walk him through anything that he needed, and I said, you know, we're gonna have lock boxes, we'll do a training session when we start, and, you know, we'll be sharing more information with you, and you didn't really actually have much to add, maybe I can.
I noticed that, I'm glad you said it was the Speedsville chief that you
Yes.
spoke with, because in the application, I think it's noted as Slaterville, Fire Department.
Oh, okay, we'll check that again, I'm sure that works. Yeah, it's,
I have a question about roads. Do you anticipate coming in on 79? And then either up Buffalo or to Old 76, or somehow coming through on Boyceville and down Old 76 Road? Or
so,
you could also come in from
I
West
think,
Creek Road.
West Creek Road, yeah.
I mean, I'm foreseeing us coming, you know. Our modules are probably gonna go into Newark, so I mean,
Mhm.
we're gonna come up via Binghamton, 83 and come over that way, so I mean, to me, we're coming in from the southeast through. Speedsville for the most part,
Speedsville, Russ Creek, yeah.
so I mean, actually, I think,
So, yeah,
for the most part, obviously,
right.
I can't control all these logistics guys, maybe some crazy person wants to go.
It's actually
Yeah,
much
come
flatter
from-
and probably a much better
Come
idea.
from, yeah, Buffalo, Thruway and south, but
Right.
I don't. Know that route enough in my mind to know.
Okay, yeah, so you'd be coming up 81 and then getting on 96. or
79.
70,
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah.
okay.
As far as the DEC coordination around the Northern Harrier, are you in touch with them and?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah, Shelby, I think was in it. Anyway, yes, we're in contact with them. Oh,
Yeah.
great. Is he nice?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's been a while, but the name.
Yeah,
rings a bell, but,
so yeah, we're in contact with them. So the Northern Harrier is a state listed bird, but not a federal listed bird, which just means it's less common here in New York. It's
Yeah.
still common elsewhere. So we're trying to work with them to understand the general gist of what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna try and have some legal conservation that says this tract of land, this plot, this is some place where they might be, and we will promise through legal means to never develop it. And so that's gonna require a little bit of back and forth with them before they approve it, but more or less.
It's like a lot of-
They already said we're going to have an impact, even though, I mean. I know it's a self-serving point, you know, the 140 acres 139 that we've talked about that are potentially disturbed. The actual amount of solar panel over top of that is gonna be approximately 35 acres. If you just laid them all flat out at the same time, so it's actually a low ratio. They did not take to that explanation, so we are going to work with them to find out where and what kind of terrain needs to be set aside to make sure that the Northern Harrier could still have some hunting grounds or places to get. So that will take some time, but
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why I bring it up is that is something that, you know, we understand to be under the jurisdiction of the DEC. And we're happy to keep you, I mean, this will all end up being public anyway, so we're happy to keep you guys in the loop of it, but what, you know, I think we want to keep in mind is that we can only move forward with this project, you know, we're telling you about several of these other permits, if we have all permits set up and in line, and you know, I think you could, as a town review board, add to any decisions of, and we'll tell you about all these things, if you also have to show us your DEC permit, and we'll get to that down the road, but.
Right, like we could approve a project with conditions, and the conditions being DEC approval or permit from this, organization or that organization or whatever else.
Yeah.
It just, I don't think we wanna have too long of a list of those things.
Mhm.
And it also puts a lot of responsibility on, in our case, on the code officer,
Who has to check those?
who has to just kind of go through and check all those things before actually giving you, your building permit. So I don't mean to speak for the board, any other members, but, I think having something in writing from most of the agencies indicating like, indicating a positive response to the project and how it would move forward will be key to getting approval, if that makes sense.
I'm just trying to think about what that would be, I mean, as I think, I mentioned last.
I mean, it's hard to, it's hard to sign off on, to give a neg deck for seeker. With all these, with 12 caveats of, as long as they say it's okay, and they say it's okay, and they say it's okay. It's good to have some sort of feedback from most of the agencies involved before signing off on a neg deck, I would say.
I hear what you're saying, so, yeah, we'll leave that, I think you asked about transit groups, so. Our general thought is that's tied into the building permit phase of prior to issuing a building permit. And, just like I know the town, again, when in the future, the town has a bond requirement, it's prior to issue a building permit, because I'm not prepared to go out and get a security bond for something before we get any permissions, right? Like if there are permissions and we're going towards the building permit, I think that would be an appropriate time to show a bond and do a pre-existing survey on the road. So I have not done any outreach. Usually one of the longer lead time elements is when it's the state DOT to get, and actually they're usually okay just to issue a new curb cut, when we go to building permits. So they've never really put up too much of an issue. Again, state roads are built different specs than county roads, and I'm sure there'll be a review that when we get closer.
Don has a question or a comment.
Yes. Go ahead, Don.
All right, I was trying to get my video to turn on.
Hi.
Anyways, it says it did. Now it says it didn't. Here we go. I got it. So I would just want to build on this conversation that Chet and Craig have had about the seeker process. So Chet, you asked us to adopt a resolution to declaring ourselves a lead agency at tonight's meeting. And my question is, what timeline do you need us to make a determination of seeker significance?
So being wearing my colors on my sleeve, there's state incentives that expire in March that one has to show local permits in hand to qualify for. And these permits, incentives in New York State have been decreasing. They are competitive, and if we can't get it for them, we can't qualify. So to be frank, we may just end up doing a lot of work for naught if we can't qualify well before. And the current run rate puts them expiring in March. So sorry.
So does that mean it would be good for you if we made a determination by December or January in order to get the things into Albany and?
Well, you're talking about, are you talking about permits or are you talking about?
The any use permit following season.
Special-
Yeah, not a building permit,
Yeah.
but a qualification with the AHJ, the local authority having jurisdiction, board having jurisdiction, which of course, by process, right, you guys would have to go through seeker first before you do any site plan review or special use permitting.
Yeah.
So if that's a possible timeframe, that would be.
But is my estimate that you're talking a couple of months before March in order to be able to get this stuff
Yeah,
going?
yeah, we've been up to the wire before, and that's,
It's not much fun.
that's.
Yeah.
Everyone here has worked on deadlines, I'm sure, that's
Well,
not the best.
All
time.
many deadlines are, it's another whole world.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay,
Don, did you have
building-
more?
Yeah, I did. So building on that timeline of January that we shoot for to make a determination. If we send out a notice to other agencies that we want to be the lead agency. So we've seen the full environmental assessment form that you've completed, and in your statement, Chet, you mentioned that you still need to do work with DEC, Fish and Wildlife, and Army Corps. Will that work be done before the town would make its determination in January? And does it need to be done before we contact the other agencies about being a lead agency?
So to the second part of the question, no, you guys can choose to declare lead agency at whatever point you feel comfortable that, you know, we are in the correct location addressing you as the board who would eventually review under the solar siting law. So you can choose that if you feel like you have been provided enough information, you can inform, or the way I understand the process is you inform all these other involved agencies who are listed on the seeker and saying,
Right.
we have been provided an application. We are going to plan to take lead agency. If you tell us nothing within the next 30 days, that action will stand, and we will carry forth after that to undertake forms part 2 and part 3.
That's very helpful, because you're just explaining what part of the process that we're resolving with tonight's meeting. So that's very helpful. And so
And-
my follow-up
Yeah.
question would be, then we're not making any environmental assessment at all tonight. We're just talking about process.
Correct. This is the start of the process. This is, again, the announcement to other involved agencies that we have received an application. If you so choose to participate, here is the introduction to that information. So that was that part of the question, but to get back to the other part of your question, Don, was, do those, do sort of all the other permits need to be rounded out? In terms of, you know, do we need to have the final declaration from the Fish and Wildlife Service, or, you know, the DEC? Do they need to have their opinion? Or do we need to wait for the Department of Ag and Markets to have their piece of paperwork produced? I think that's I think that's sort of, in my opinion, that's case by case, where I can help walk the board through each type of exact notification, what we're expecting to get out of it, and what we've been hearing about their timelines. You know, the fact that we know, we have already, you know, learned this from the Fish and Wildlife Service, that the northern long-eared bat, the tricolor bat, the monarch butterfly are federal species of concern in that location, is to me the first helpful part. And we've already, you know, in that case, communicated, we will only be able to clear trees from November to March, right? And so that, we understand, is, you know, reaction to current guidance that we would say, for example, with the Fish and Wildlife Services, we think you, the review board, have enough information to consider that part is complete. You know, you might ding me, you know, as it comes to, say, the DEC, where I know there's a northern harrier, I know it was seen hunting. The DEC has already said, we will take jurisdiction over this. But the fact that I can't tell you it's 10 acres, it's 30 acres, it's 300 acres, that I need to work with them to conserve. You know, that's sort of at your discretion of how much you want to wait or coordinate with their agencies. And again, we can go through each step as much as you want. But I'm here to help explain all these other things that we're doing to make sure that, you know, the process is clear, and you as lead agency, you know, can be informed of the other involved agencies. So I would say some consideration in discretion is at this board's hands. Provided we give you enough information on those specific things.
So Craig, I just have one more comment for the board and for Chet. You just mentioned that you could get a statement from DEC that they are going to take responsibility for some portion of the environmental impact that's happening from this project. From my perspective, that is adequate for the board to know that we don't have to worry about controlling that. And that you have the commitment from DEC to take that responsibility. So, thanks.
Sure.
Do you have contact information for each of the agencies that would be, interested parties?
I gotta double check her, like I said, I know our DC guy, I gotta go see what his mailing address is, right?
Yeah.
I'm close.
No, I'm not
close,
saying
but
right now.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like,
yes, yeah,
you know, it'll help us expedite getting out the notices to all
Yeah.
these agencies, if you can kind of give us who you've
Yeah.
either been talking to or some, some contact info
Absolutely,
for them so that we can get those.
yes, I will. We have that.
Yeah, I'm sure you
It's
do.
mostly, okay.
Any other questions? Board members? No. Okay, minor question, signage? I didn't see anything, I might have missed it. I was just reading through the law and there was something about, just having signage indicated and technical, but, somewhere in your information, you should probably let us know what the signage is. Gonna be.
It's generally basic on the, agricultural fence.
Right. Yeah, it's just, the law says it's supposed to have the contact information for the owner and blah, blah, blah.
Yep,
In case there's something going on, so.
it's not me. Yeah. I'll fix that. Everything's fine, but everything's like it's paid.
Oh, okay, I did miss it, okay.
What page number is that?
18 of 23.
18, sorry.
Alright, great.
Sorry,
Thank you.
mine's clean up my,
Yeah.
clean up my mess. I got it. Yeah, page 18.
Great, thank you.
Very, very minor point, but when I first started reviewing the maps, Palestrine is misspelled in some of the maps as Palestine. Not Palestine like we said.
They dropped the R.
The R, so when you look up Palestine, it's like everything goes up Palestine right now, it's like, thankfully your wetland is not Palestinian.
No, that would cause a lot more, legal,
Yeah, you'd have more
quagmires.
problems than that.
Let's just leave it at that.
Just needs
Yes,
an R.
Sorry for misspelling it,
When you're,
if I had seen it, I certainly would
Yeah,
have
it's on
done my best.
2 or 3 of the maps in the beginning, it's all, you'll see it.
Okay, that is, that's an easy fix.
In your original presentation last meeting, you had sheep use for, grass management and whatnot, but I didn't see that in any of the documentation. Is
So,
that,
so
we like to do that and it's kind of, but you don't have any signed leases or anything like that?
we do not have any signed leases right now. Our landowners all have right of first.
Yeah, I remember you saying this, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I said right of first offer, right of first offer. They have right of first offer for
Managing.
right? And so there is, United Agrivoltaics is a large, grazer.
Yeah.
We've worked with before. So, maybe to answer your questions, we are very pro,
Yeah,
sheep grazing, but,
you can't. commit to it
it's,
sometimes.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
Got it.
thing that we would have to work on to make sure we're all squared away to promise it, right? Like cause if you bear with me on a tangent, I've spoken to some of our other development partners they're working on the large scale element, and they want to graze in the sort of 1,000 acre scale things. They're actually running their analysis and thinking, wait a minute, what are we gonna do with all these sheep? Like, there's not actually a large enough market for lamb. For them to support, that they feel like they might tip the
I
market.
beg to differ on that one, but
I'm a lamb eater myself, but.
I'm a land grower myself, so, there's plenty of demand for it,
I-
but.
I-
And
I was
Caleb's
make
gonna
a
fight
joke.
you pretty hard to manage all that
Uh,
land and sheep, but. No, but I understand,
Caleb,
yes,
by
you
the
can't,
way,
you can't commit
Caleb,
to it.
yeah, he's already in my, deeply into my inbox.
Yes, I'm sure, I'm sure, so,
A quick, hello, how are you, was,
yeah,
hi, Caleb, was a good solid response.
yes. But I understand you can't make a commitment, so, okay, just asking. Any other questions? We'll have plenty of other opportunity to ask more questions, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, just,
Hi,
I had a question that just came up. When you do your, and I haven't seen the I didn't read the documentation. Is there a work schedule plan? So you're gonna bring in all of these laborers and do this massive construction? Are there hours set for doing that kind of work?
so we're generally a seven to seven, kind of shop, and that would obviously decrease in the winters. I can't remember.
Noise,
If that,
noise.
if
was
that
8 to
times
6.
out, I think you guys may have had something in the town law about hours, but. 7 to 7 is the general timing, but. No specifics as of yet, because like I said, we're still looking at winter. 25 into 26 is, that's gonna be a real split point for us to figure out how we approach our schedule run. Certainly the hours of the teams coming in to follow, those are future decisions for me.
Don, you had something else?
I do. So Chad, I wanted to get expectations from you as far as review process. Is tonight considered a sketch plan review, or we're even ahead of that? And what's your timeline for wanting to have a complete application for the review board to consider?
So I've submitted a lot of materials and, did my damnedest to make it full and addressing all elements of the solar siting law, so. I hope to fulfill and hit a full application that's ready for review, according to you guys. I mean, I sent you a message about it, but I'm not, I don't know what we need to do to cross that threshold, but. That to me will help kick the situation off, the process off. So that you guys can. Reach out to the other agencies and start this. Once we keep asking questions, and I mean, I think. That depends on whether. Whether all interactions are gonna happen at the public forum at this review board, because that would probably take a couple meetings, November, December, January, etc. If that's the way you wanna do that, or I don't know if you guys would consider additional meetings for more time to ask questions and all that, but. I think I consider this a sketch plan. There's a full suite of documents for review, so that we can. Talk about that part is ready and available for your guys' information so that we can start moving on to next parts. Which I would understand we've kicked off by this lead agency step. So
I would say just to I don't know, correct or add to that a little bit is that if we're declaring lead agency, then I think this would be technically past sketch plan. I'd have to look back at the law, but. Sketch plan is there typically, when you do sketch plan, there's no action done that night. So if we're declaring lead agency, it would be post sketch plan, and that, a large chunk of documents have been submitted. Is it a complete application? That's up to us and whether we determine whether we have everything we feel like we need or not. And then just so you know, Chet, like another thing we're talking about is between meetings, assuming we adopt this sort of resolution or clarification to the process would be, at the meetings, ideally, we give you a list or feedback as far as, okay, we'd still like to see this, this, and this. If you submit those 2 weeks before the next meeting,
Mhm.
then a week before that meeting, we should be able to have reviewed and give you additional feedback, questions or whatever, so at the
Discuss it.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that at that next meeting, you can respond to that, whether it's with visuals or with just talking about, oh, I talked to so-and-so at the whatever agency and that's our attempt to help keep the process going.
Mhm.
Not only for your project, but just in general for projects. So that's something for us to discuss.
Mhm.
Will likely happen, after this presentation at this meeting.
Okay.
So that just, if that helps with how the process will go, we're gonna try and keep things moving along.
Before we, for instance, if we declare a lead agency, do you have to pay a fee? And has the town figured out what that fee is yet?
We have to pay
The fee has
Yeah,
been paid.
yeah.
Okay,
The fee's been paid, and I mean, I would say, from my take on it, you feel like you have submitted a substantial amount of information,
I think you have.
which you have. And, you know, going through sort of the checklist of the solar law, I think you've hit most things, it's just a matter of like. Everybody looking through them and making sure that we're comfortable with what we've gotten and if we need additional information
Yeah.
or. Feedback from other agencies, whatnot. Don,
Sure. So I just wanted to make a comment, Craig, on your first statement about that if we declare lead agency or desire to be lead agency, that we've actually moved into the review process. If I listen to Chet's
didn't
words.
say that,
Okay,
I didn't say the review process.
I would say that you said something about moving past sketch plan review, which to me means moving through the review process. So I wouldn't necessarily link those, but having said all that, I thank Chet for the information that he submitted, and I think that's definitely qualifies for a sketch plan, which gives us something to work on to give you feedback about what we would need for a complete application. And we as a board have not had that discussion about when we want to supply information. I have several questions myself, but maybe rather than doing it piecemeal, we want to meet during the next couple of weeks via email and develop a list of questions for Chet and Distributed Sun. So I'll look for your suggestion on the process, but yeah, so where do you want to go with us tonight is my question.
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you. Do you want questions submitted that we want to have answered for a
Right.
complete application, or do you want to do that as a group as opposed to individual members? How do you want to move ahead with that?
We can either do it now or we can do it via email and compile a list, like we can either compile questions or additional materials that we want, by people just telling me right now, or we can do it via email if people don't feel ready. My question would be, do people feel ready to declare lead agency? How are people feeling
I do.
about that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay,
I read the packet.
Do we
so
make a
can
motion on
I have a
that?
motion and then a
Motion,
second?
we declare lead agency on the project.
Second,
Second, all right, all in favor?
aye.
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 Hi.
Okay, opposed? Okey doke. So, now that we've done that, yeah, I think, we need to reach out to these, all these various agencies. In a way that, you know, it gives them 30 days to respond.
Mhm.
So if, how are board members feeling about like, making a list right now, or do we want to try and compile something via email?
So questions to those agencies or questions to,
Questions to chat.
Chat.
The agencies are the agencies typically will respond, either not respond
Right,
or respond with, you know, we.
sure, fine.
Yeah, we're okay with you being lead agency, or very, very, very rarely, they have something to say.
Mhm.
They might have some advice or something to say along with, go ahead, be lead agency. Yeah, so our questions would be, and it's not our responsibility to communicate with the other agencies to figure things out, it's their responsibility.
Yeah.
So if we have additional questions that might involve some of the other agencies, they're tasked to deal with coming up with an answer or some sort of response, or,
Okay.
you know, I've tried really hard and they can't, you know, cooperate, or whatever it is, which,
Happens.
yeah, which happens.
The one question I have, which, something you said made me think about this. So let's say this produces 100 gigawatts. And
I would hope it's 1.21 gigawatts.
gigawatts, whatever it is, okay. You said something about individuals purchasing their power from panels. Are you talking specific panels or like a percentage of the,
It's a percentage.
that's what I figured.
Yeah.
There was something that you said that made me think, maybe like, you know, John gets that panel and Francine gets this panel, and I was like, that is really complicated.
No. It's a giant sum divided,
Much,
added.
much more rational.
Yeah.
It just made me think, well, that seems impossible and crazy. So,
The pioneers did it that way in terms of the very first people to do community solar type projects.
yeah,
And
that was crazy.
it was.
Yeah.
Do we want to maybe take an approach of combining the two, that any questions that we have ready to ask now, we could start the list and then within a certain period of time, the next week or
It's-
two, get any further?
Yeah, and I mean, I'd like to give a compiled list
Mhm.
to Chad and Mark and whoever else, and so. Why don't we, what I'm hearing is, let's take the next week or whatever.
Sure.
And write them all out, maybe look back at it, at the documents,
Mhm.
and come up with whatever we need. And then we'll bring it all together into one sort of consolidated list. that we-
Sounds fine.
Okay,
And for what it's worth, I think that's
yeah,
a straightforward path. I can track and manage and
Great.
get responses in more organization.
yep. Any other discussion, board members? Want to say anything? Jack, no?
No, this is my third time hearing Chet's spiel, so I'm pretty confident so far.
We can now give it up.
We don't want to.
No, I love Chet's spiel. I'm here for it.
All right, then I guess let's move on. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so, move on to Don's resolution. So as far as, well, I'll just read it. Resolve, the Caroline Review Board hereby adopts these process steps for application review. The applicants for the review and fee. The applications for review and fee must be submitted at least 30 days prior to the review board meeting. An application is not deemed complete until so stated by an adopted review board resolution. No, the review board is encouraged to communicate their concerns about incomplete portions of the application amongst themselves between meetings. Requests for additional information will be made and communicated to the applicant as soon as possible by the zoning officer for board clerk. 3, all requested materials received at least 2 weeks prior to the review board meeting at which it will be considered are considered timely for review at the upcoming meeting. 4, the review board will supply the applicant with any follow-up questions or concerns at least 1 week prior to such a meeting. And at the review board meeting, the review board must declare the application complete before commencing the review process. Any questions, comments?
I just
From-
had the comment on, or question, I guess, on number 4, that if we fail to ask any requests for information of the applicant prior to the meeting, are we forfeiting, by stating this as a requirement, are we forfeiting the opportunity to request that information at the meeting?
No, the way I take it is we're not forfeiting that opportunity or that responsibility, it just prolongs the process, it just stretches out the timeline.
I wonder if we change the word will to shall, or is it, is,
Shall
May?
is more,
or is more legal?
Yes.
shall, it has more weight than will.
Okay, so we want will,
Yeah.
not may.
Or
May.
Or May?
May.
May is-
Closer to May.
May is much softer. Yeah.
May, yeah. So we wouldn't be
May.
dinged on, so if it's May, then there's no question, like my illegal money.
Yes, right. Tim, did you have something?
Yeah, Craig, the section about communicating information by the clerk or the code officer
Mm-hmm,
internally, from our point of view, everything should be communicated by the review board clerk, not the code officer.
by the
and we're-
review board clerk.
And we're assuming that that means that the review board clerk will be given a document by the review board to
Yep.
transmit. But it'll just be cleaner if it's the review board clerk and not the
Okay.
code officer.
Say, Craig, can you, repeat what Tim had said? It doesn't pick up well on the microphone.
Tim said that from an internal operations point of view, they would like communications to come from the review board clerk. So not from the zoning officer or code officer in this case, either, same person. But to come, so basically, we would give the information, probably me or us, combined to the review board clerk, and then they would communicate with the applicants. Sounds good to me.
Who is the review board clerk?
It's Jesse.
Okay, so the town clerk is the review board clerk.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, yes,
For-
but no,
Uh,
there's separate designations.
That she serves as.
She is serving as both.
Okay.
right. Any other comments, questions, changes that people might want to make?
I'll second it.
I think it's really helpful to have that
Yeah,
clarified, so.
okay.
I guess my question from what we talked about earlier, hopefully this picks up, do we need to hear about having a full application before going to request lead agency? Are you
No.
putting when? Are
No.
those sequence steps, or can those be done in parallel?
I am of the belief that we can declare lead agency without having a complete application.
Me too.
That's why I.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a second, I guess, all in favor of adopting this, I guess it is a resolution
Yeah.
of process, okay. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? Great. There was minor wording changes, I will recirculate to everybody that change just to make sure we were all hearing or saying the same thing. And then send it to Jesse. So that it could be the
Great.
resolution. Okie dokie. Our next meeting is supposedly November 5th, I believe is
It's election day.
election day. So. Can we? Oh geez, just do the. Following Tuesday? The 12th?
What is the town have?
shoes, yeah, I know, that's what I was
Well,
just.
Jessie's on, right? She probably knows everything.
Yeah, if we put it back a week too, maybe we can get the notifications out for the 30-day period for the other agencies so that we would have that settled by the next meeting.
That'd be
Yep,
great.
I was kind of thinking that too, shoot, trying to find a calendar.
I have nothing exciting going on at night in November, just fine.
Yeah, the town calendar's open that Tuesday, the 12th.
Good.
There's that, Jesse. I was trying to find it.
Yeah, oh, right, okay, so that's really, okay, great, thank you, yes. Looks like it. All right, so let's have a meeting on this.
Okay,
Great.
Well, that was easier than usual. Scheduling a few people. All right. Awesome, thank you.
November 12th.
So remind me of the meeting date, the new meeting date.
The new meeting date for November is Tuesday, the 12th.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. I have no other,
We haven't heard from.
so, oh,
What's
well, so hold on, Brian sent me a little message earlier saying that Dave Herrick has not had the best communicate or cooperation with the highway department about water management and interacting with the septic system for Wetzel's project. So they've had to move everything.
This is county highway he's talking about, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Cause it's a county road. So they're hoping to have stuff ready to submit for the November meeting.
Okay,
But they've had to move everything out of. All septic system and grading work has been moved out of the right of way.
it's a good plan.
Well.
Yeah.
There you go.
Has been moved out of what? I lost you
Of
there.
out of the right of way,
Okay, yeah,
the county road has a certain right of way.
okay.
But I'll forward that on to everybody when we get out of the meeting.
I have just a sort of process thing that maybe just to take up as a suggestion or conversation with the way the information appears on the town website for documentation. It's wonderful to have it all available there, but I'm wondering if, and maybe this is something to take up just as a conversation with the town, can we have it as a project-based folder?
So what I suggested was a current projects
Exactly.
page.
Yeah.
So, or a tab or something that had current projects and then the projects are listed, you click on those and then you have
Mhm.
the list of the materials that are submitted for each of those projects.
Yes.
There was something about it that Mike Legate said that it's not possible with the way software for our website is set up. I would like to continue that conversation with Mike and see if maybe it was just in how I phrased my requests that he took it as, well, we can't set up a folder system, like, it's not meta, which it doesn't have to be a folder system, it can be
This is the.
yeah, it can be exactly what he did, just
Instead of a meeting.
organized, yes,
Yes.
organized
Yeah.
differently so that it's a little clearer for people going to the website and saying, oh yeah, that project, what information do we have for it? And rather than going to the meeting minutes, there should be just a link to a project.
Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, I know. After thinking about it, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Come on.
And possibly in the title or somewhere easily accessed a date as to when the information was received by the town so that we can just see what's the chronological and also
updated
make sure
information.
that we are getting the information in the required time for the laws.
Oh, yeah, right. And I was thinking people that are looking on there, so that they're not looking at the old version and that they're looking.
So
at
that
the
any
new
title either starts or ends with the date received by the town.
version. Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's great.
Okay,
Shall we?
we should, because we have to go watch the debate.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Plug my ears. Right.
If there ends up being a problem, let me know, because we can always bring back the designer, to the design if need be.
Oh, okay, I didn't, oh, okay,
It's really
Interesting.
wonderful having that information.
But I don't see why it would be a problem.
Yeah.
Knowledge.
yeah, and once I saw how he did it, I was like, but can't we just,
Because
yeah,
you know, all he's doing is he's inputting information into the template that was designed.
Right.
Given to him.
right,
So,
right,
yeah,
right,
in the design, so it could just be.
right,
Yeah, just a tweak. it a
fair,
little.
yeah, fair enough. Okay,
Good.
thank you, everyone, thanks for being adjourned.
Great.